Have you ever had that feeling, that prickling on the back of your neck, like you're not alone even when you are? I am here to tell you a story that will make you double-check your locks and maybe sleep with a light on. This isn't something I read in a book or saw in a movie. This happened to me, and it changed how I see the world forever. It all started when I moved into a new apartment, a place that seemed perfect on the surface. It was in an old but beautifully maintained building in a quiet part of the city. The rent was a steal, almost too good to be true, and as I would soon find out, the first few weeks were blissfully normal. I was busy unpacking boxes, arranging furniture, and just enjoying the new space. The apartment had this old-world charm, with high ceilings and hardwood floors that creaked with history. I loved it, but then, the little things started. At first it was just misplaced items. My keys wouldn't be on the hook where I always left them, they'd be on the kitchen counter. A book I was reading would be on the floor, open to a different page. I brushed it off as me being forgetful and stressed from the move. You know how it is, your mind plays tricks on you in a new environment. I told myself I was just adjusting. Then came the noises, faint whispers, like a radio playing in another room, except my radio was never on. The sound of soft footsteps in the hallway outside my bedroom door. Late at night, when I knew I was the only one home, I started getting jumpy. Every creak of the old building sent a jolt of anxiety through me. I tried to rationalize it. It's an old building, I'd tell myself. The pipes make noise, the floors settle, and sounds from other apartments travel in weird ways. I was desperately clinging to logic, trying to build a wall of reason against a growing sense of dread. One evening, I was watching a movie in the living room. It was late, maybe around midnight. Suddenly, all the lights in the apartment flickered and went out. Total darkness. My heart hammered against my ribs. I fumbled for my phone, using its flashlight to navigate to the circuit breaker in the hallway. As I opened the metal box, I saw that all the switches were still in the on position. That was strange. As I was standing there, confused, I heard it, a distinct, chilling sound from the living room. It was the sound of my rocking chair, the one I had inherited from my grandmother, slowly creaking back and forth, back and forth. I froze, phone still in my hand, its light trembling, pointed at the circuit box. I hadn't been anywhere near that chair. It was across the room, tucked in a corner. There was no draft, no open window that could have moved it. My logical explanations were starting to crumble. I took a deep breath, trying to muster some courage. "Hello," I called out, my voice shaking. "Is anyone there?" The only reply was the rhythmic, haunting creak of the rocking chair. It felt like my blood had turned to ice. I didn't even bother trying to fix the lights. I just backed away slowly, went into my bedroom, locked the door, and huddled under the covers until the sun came up. The next morning, the lights were back on. The rocking chair was still. It was as if nothing had happened. But I knew it had. I started to do some digging into the history of the building. I spent hours at the local library, sifting through old newspapers and city records. What I found was unsettling. Decades ago, long before the building was converted into modern apartments, it had been a private residence. A woman named Eleanor had lived in my exact unit. The articles were vague, but they mentioned a tragic accident. Eleanor had lost her young son in the house. Overwhelmed by grief, she spent the rest of her days in seclusion, rarely leaving her apartment. Her favorite spot, the place she was always seen, was in a rocking chair by the window. Now, everything started to make a terrifying kind of sense. The misplaced items, like a playful child hiding things, the whispers, and the rocking chair. It wasn't my grandmother's chair I was hearing, it was Elena's. I wasn't sure if it was her spirit or her child's, or maybe both, lingering in the space where they had experienced so much joy and so much pain. I started to feel less like an intruder and more like a guest in their home. The fear didn't completely go away, but it was now mixed with a sense of sympathy. I decided to try something. One evening, I sat on the floor in front of the rocking chair. The room was quiet. I spoke out loud, not to an empty room, but to them. I introduced myself. I told them I was sorry for their loss and that I meant no harm. I said I understood this was their home long before it was mine, and that I would respect their space. It felt strange, talking to the air, but I had to try. As I spoke, the air in the room, which usually felt heavy and cold, seemed to get a little lighter. The rocking chair, which had been perfectly still, gave one single, gentle creak. It wasn't aggressive or startling like before. It felt like a response, an acknowledgement. After that night, things changed. The unsettling activity didn't stop completely, but it became different, softer. Sometimes I'd hear a faint giggle, like a child playing hide and seek. The rocking chair would occasionally move, but it was a slow, gentle sway. almost comforting. It felt less like I was being haunted and more like I had unseen roommates. I learned to live with them. I'd say good morning when I woke up and good night before I went to bed. I'd tell them about my day. It became a strange, unspoken agreement. I shared my home with the spirits of the past. I lived in that apartment for 2 more years. People who visited would sometimes comment on the weird vibes or a sudden cold spot, but I would just smile. They had no idea. When it was finally time for me to move, for a new job in a different city, I felt a strange sense of sadness. On my last day, after all the boxes were packed and the rooms were empty, I stood in the living room one last time. I looked at the spot where the rocking chair used to be. "Thank you," I whispered. "Thank you for sharing your home with me. I hope you find peace." As I turned to walk out the door for the final time, I heard it, very faintly, from behind me. A soft, whispery voice that seemed to say, "Goodbye." I never went back to that apartment, and I've never experienced anything like it since, but I'll never forget it. It taught me that there are things in this world that we couldn't explain with science or logic. It taught me that the veil between our world and whatever comes next is sometimes thinner than we think, and sometimes all a restless spirit wants is to be acknowledged, to be heard, and to not be alone. So, if you ever move into a new place and strange things start to happen, maybe don't be so quick to be afraid. Maybe, just maybe, try saying hello. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've had a similar experience, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. It helps to know we're not alone in these encounters. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories from the other side. Stay safe and keep an open mind.